Isis nearer the camera. Look to see how quickly the crews get cover, how quickly they settle down.
Goldie off to a very good start. They definitely got the edge in the first 2 strokes, and they're out to nearly a quarter of a length in the first 10 strokes. They covered rapidly. Probably by the 7th stroke they were covering their puddles. That's the wash off their blades, which is a good measure, but Isis have responded in the second 5, and there's not much to choose in them as they come along the line of the boats.
It'll be about this time they'll be looking to be at sort of full length strokes. They'll be trying to get towards that cruise pace that will take them through the course of the race. And it does look like Isis have taken a bit of an early lead.
Isis are by far the heavier crew, and Goldie are giving away nearly half a stone a man, which can be significant. And insofar as there are going to be heavy conditions, they're likely to be between about the 2nd minute and the 4th. And I'm sure that Isis will want to take advantage of the Middlesex bend, which is to their advantage in the first 3 to 4 minutes.
And we've been rowing for a minute.
I think at this point it looks like Isis are still moving away. Now whether that's because they're putting in efforts early on, because they've actually hit a faster speed, well, we'll find out soon.
Yeah, it looks pretty even Steven to me. It'd be interesting to see how much the Isis Cox is managing to just make sure that he can turn as late in the day as possible and gain the full advantage from this first Middlesex bend. Nice positions, actually. The oar's close, but by no means in danger of having any problem.
They may just be about to have a problem now. No, it looks like perhaps the umpire warned them apart there.
They're very much stroke for stroke at the moment. There's very little between them as they come past Beverley Brook. And at this point, Goldie will really want to hold on to it, because in the next minute or so, the Isis crew will have a chance to turn around the inside of that first Middlesex bend.
And the Isis Cox will be looking to hold out as long as possible to keep his straight line, really until the umpire warns him that if he doesn't take the bend, he'll have to take further action.
And he's just coming to the point where he will want to take advantage of the bend, but it looks as though Goldie up a little bit.
So I think Goldie seemed to have snatched between a third and a half of a length in that rather crucial run up into the bend. Not quite on the point of the bend, yes, they'll be turning into it perhaps in about 30 seconds. Goldie have, though, half a length.
And I think the longer the Isis Cox can hold Goldie to the left, the more advantage you can take of the bend, because you can make it a sharper turn, which in an ideal world pushes the Goldie crew out to the left.
Well, I know that many a Cox feels that the name on the stand, which they've now passed at the Fulham football ground, is the optimum point, but I must say you have to admire the way Goldie are doing here. They seem to be squeezing in quite a bit and forcing the Isis crew across a bit.
I think that's right. If you are ahead, it's always easier to lean on the other Coxes. Because the men in the Goldie boat there can see behind them, they can see the Isis oars.
It's really very, very close. They're interlocking. There has been one disqualification in this contest when Neil Ciccani was the Cox.
That was my year of presidency, actually, yes. It was a very difficult decision. I'm sure it didn't help that it was a Cambridge umpire fueled the controversy from our side. I don't think it really was a controversy, but...
I know that Dick Smith of Cambridge had his blade knocked out of his hand. He was rowing it too. Yeah. Anyway, Goldie seemed to have won that little battle, but it was a good battle.
I know that the two-man of that boat actually has a blade on his oar with Isis winning that race. He had one made up specially because he felt they would have won.
Collisions can be counterproductive. Leaving aside the question of disqualification, it also involves problems with putting the rudder on, which acts like a brake. The rudders are very small, they're underneath the boat. They're only about 2 inches or 3 inches square, but every time you use them, it slows the boat down, so you need to avoid that. Goldie seem to have come out better from this. They've got nearly a length now and have survived that Middlesex bend. Now, this next couple of minutes is very important for Isis, because once the boats come to Harrods, at that point, it's possible for Goldie to take the inside of the next bend. So Isis have really got to fight hard now, or it could be hello and goodbye.
Harrods Wharf, and Jonny Searle waving his arms around next to me.
And this is a crucial time for Isis, and I fear they may have, the moment may be lost. It's very important to try to keep contact with another boat as long as possible. Obviously, the Goldie crew seem to be still moving away.
Goldie are actually underrating them. They're now below 34, which is certainly their comfortable pace rate, and still moving away. they're also beginning to move slightly in front of Isis. The turbulence which comes off the oars can be very disturbing for the crew immediately behind, and the cox is tucking the bow side blades of Goldie in front of the stroke side blades of Isis, just to make it that much more uncomfortable for them. Under the boat race rules, you mustn't interfere with the other crew, but interference is a fairly broad definition.
Now, I know this is a tough Isis crew. There's 4 or 5 people here who feel they could have been in the Bluebird. I know they're good racers, but they're really going to have to dig in now, because if they must stay in some sort of contact with Goldie.
7-man Garth Rosengren was in fact in the blue boat last year, but it looks as though he's going to be in a losing boat for the second year running in senior and junior races. As they come up towards Hammersmith, it's looking hugely impressive for Goldie. 7 in succession, 6:25. You can see that ticking away.
So I don't think this is going to be record-breaking times today. There's too much headwind in this first part. Good tide, but not the wind behind them. And Goldie have got it all their own way at this point. The best that Isis can do is to hang in behind them and try and keep the gap as small as possible, so that when, at the end of the long Surrey bend, it moves in their advantage, they can then pull out and try and get on terms.
In fact, the Surrey bend is 2 bends and a straight in the middle, but it's all looking very good for Goldie as they move on down Chiswick Reach. Well, Jonny Searle, I have to say, knows quite a lot about the Isis crew. You have done a bit of the coaching there, a bit depressing for them as they go past St Paul's School. There's the Chiswick 8 coming into view in the foreground. They've got a lot to do, to put it mildly.
They have. I know Dave Lister, who's been coaching them, was quite optimistic about how they were going. Obviously, at this point, Goldie still seem to be moving away. There's really little Isis can do if they can't at least stop Goldie moving. At this moment, I think Goldie is still, the boat speeds are quicker.
Certainly, Goldie have come on very well in the last couple of weeks. I felt that when they came to the tide where Isis would have been in with a chance, but Goldie have really been very impressive. I saw a lot of activity by the Oxford coaches over the last week, which suggested to me a bit of the undertakers round the sick man's bed. It looked like things didn't look too good in the last couple of days.
I mean, I've been with them a bit in the last. Well, I've been out with them maybe once a week for the last few weeks, and I thought they were quite a strong, hard group of oarsmen. I think if you look just technically there, the Goldie cruise looks a little more lively, a little springier, and perhaps that's why. Well, that is why they've got that faster boat speed.
Of course, there's always a little bit of competition when I hate to rub it in, but on you, Jonny, but when the last 2 successes have been by 14 lengths and 13 lengths, every Goldie crew goes out. They're looking for 7 in succession here to say, well, hang on, can we improve upon that?
I think it is quite right to say that both Oxford crews this year are measurably better than last year's, without doubt. Now, each year, I think they look at the Goldie material and never know quite what's going to come out of it. And this is a real credit, yet again, to Donald Eggett, because Donald Eggett is the architect, really, of Goldie's successes. And he's yet again waved his, well, I don't know if Donald has a wand, but whatever he has, he's waved it. He's been coaching Cambridge now for, well, over 30 years, I think. He certainly coached me back in the 70s.
Pretty comfortable for Alistair Potts, Winchester Edinburgh University, and now it seems 2 successes. One at Henley with the ladies and one on the Tideway with the Goldie men.
This is looking like it may not be that far off the 45 seconds of the last 2 years. I did think the Isis crew would be fast in this. I think that the problem they've got is there's some very good individuals there. They're perhaps not blending as a crew as well as they have done in training.
It's very good too for the stroke Goldie, Pete Mallin-Jones, who was an unlucky man not to make the blue boat. He rode it and stroked an outstanding Goldie last year, got a gold medal as an under-23 international, and his other 3 partners in that boat in the summer have all gone into the blue boat. He sets a very nice rhythm. He's always been a good rhythm man, just perhaps a little bit short on the horsepower. And there's also a very talented newcomer in the middle of the boat who, perhaps a bit like James Ball last year, was unlucky not to make the blue boat. Roger Pym, that is.
Yeah, Roger Pym's at 5, Richard Bowman 7, Nicholas Smith also in again for Goldie is at 6. And the oldest oarsman is 22.9, the rest are under 22. Just those 2 survivors from 95, come from 6 colleges, 3 of them from Trinity Hall, currently the head of the river. Jack Mellor in the bow with hair to rival James Ball of last year, Christian Brun, Alan Watson, David Cassidy from Range looked passingly similar to Dave Gillard a few years ago.
It's perhaps relevant that the Cambridge spare, or the Goldie spare man, James Fawcett, was in the who didn't make Goldie was in the same junior 8 as 2 of the Isis men, and would probably be a comparable oarsman.
This is a real nursery, both for the university and ultimately for higher things. Both universities use this crew as a way of developing their oarsmen. It's been particularly important for Cambridge, who this year have had 5 of them go on into the Blue Boat. And as we've heard, Oxford have actually had some American oarsmen come in, which has meant that they've not made such full use of Isis. And perhaps it's been very significant to Cambridge in their build-up programme that they have relied much on these Goldie oarsmen, and clear progression from Goldie to Blue Boat is very much part of the Cambridge policy.
Well, Isis have just gone past the bandstand, whereas Goldie are approaching Barnes Bridge, and they've been in total control for almost the entire race. Just a little bit of a battle early on, but once that battle was won, it's been a light blue story in this first race.
And although they won't know about this, of course, up at the start, it must be a boost for the Blue Boat back at the start, because this is a very hefty margin, and it always is good to know that your second boat is one ahead of the Oxford second boat. And of course, Cambridge demonstrated there the fact that they were better than Earl Goldie only the other day.
I should tell you, Jonny, just to cheer you up, that he says that every year.
Unfortunately, this is getting a bit of a habit, isn't it?
An estimate of the distance, Chris?
Oh goodness! No, I think
easily.
It must be, yes, easily, very definitely. But you're just trying to fill in the gaps. But it's looking nearer 10 lengths to me. Then it's a very, very long way. Goldie have maintained their race pace at just under 34 strokes a minute. Isis have not given up. They've been battling on at much the same rate, but the gaps just kept on going better, bigger and bigger. It's that Cambridge rhythm.
Looking down from the rebuilt brewery at Mortlake, you can see the gap. I must say those following in the flotilla have not really been able to see too much of Cambridge. They've been too far in the distance. I say Cambridge, of course it's the Goldie crew who are winning, well, it has to be said, easily, if any race is easy.
Yes, they've really rode very well, and they've demonstrated that, once again, this relentless sort of rhythm which Cambridge can produce when they're going very well, and I think this is a Goldie crew to match previous years. And I think they thought they were in for quite a hard tussle, so it may have come as somewhat of a pleasant surprise to them. But they're now making their way towards the finish in grand style.
I think when Goldie moved ahead, there's 2 things that are going to happen in the boat that's behind. You can either relax and row quite well, and sometimes the margin then isn't very much. And in this case, Isis have obviously kept trying really hard, perhaps rowing not quite so well as they have done.
Coming up to the finish, it's another success for Goldie. Their 7th in succession, their 21st in all. And what is race number 31? Stylish performance yet again from Goldie, and Alistair Potts, as is his wont, celebrates the crossing of the line. And here come Isis, very much in their wake. Tough on the likes of Richard Kelly, who's been battling to get in the Blue Boat and hasn't made it again, and is facing defeat again by a wide margin. Plenty of time for them to celebrate, as Oxford still haven't crossed the finishing line. Bit of orchestration from Alistair Potts. Oxford have completed the course, or Isis have, and the Blue Boat will be hoping to do rather better than that. Goldie will say Come on, you guys at CUBC, we've set you the standard yet again.